You know, usually when you watch a massive skyscraper being built right in the middle of a city, all the attention is focused on the very top.
Right, yeah. People are just looking up.
Exactly. You're walking by, looking up at the glass facade going in, the shiny penthouses taking shape, the cranes lifting steel hundreds of feet into the clouds.
It's mesmerizing.
It really is. We are completely mesmerized by the visible progress.
And I mean, that makes complete sense from a human psychology standpoint. We gravitate toward things we can actually see.
Right.
You know, things that are tangible.
Yeah.
The finished product that sits right in front of our faces. I mean, nobody stands on the sidewalk taking pictures of a hole in the ground.
No one.
Oh.
But that hole in the ground is literally the entire ball game.
Oh, absolutely.
Nobody is photographing the concrete being poured into the rebar deep underground because it's invisible, it's dirty, it's boring.
Yeah, it's not sexy at all.
Right. But if that foundation cracks, or, you know, if the engineers didn't pour it deep enough to handle the sheer tonnage of the building above it,
The whole thing comes down.
that beautiful glass penthouse is eventually going to come crashing down. The building can only ever be as tall as the foundation is deep.
That's a great way to look at it.
Welcome to the latest deep dive on Talk Tickers. If you are joining us for the first time, our mission here is simple. We want to cut through the heavy Wall Street jargon.
And there is a lot of it.
So much. We look past the hype and give you the data, the story, the guidance, and the bottom line on the companies shaping the market. And we do it in plain language.
Plain English, always.
Today, we are taking you underground. We are looking at the technology sector, specifically the artificial intelligence revolution, and we are just completely ignoring the shiny penthouses.
Which is incredibly hard to do right now, by the way.
Oh, it's nearly impossible.
The market is entirely distracted by those surface-level AI applications. You know, the consumer chatbots, the image generator.
The reasoning models.
Exactly. That is the glass facade.
Yeah.
But the real structural shifts, the tectonic plates of the software industry, they're moving right now at the invisible infrastructure layer.
And that brings us to our focus for today, MongoDB.
Ticker symbol MDB.
Right, MDB. We are going to break down their Q1 fiscal 2027 earnings call because, frankly, this company is quietly pouring the concrete for the entire AI era.
They really are.
And if you read through this earnings transcript, and we have gone through every single line of it for you, you start to realize that MongoDB isn't just a database company anymore.
No, they've evolved way past that.
They are establishing themselves as the literal memory layer for the AI revolution.
The memory layer, I love that term.
So, okay, let's unpack this. Before we can even get into the mind-bending technology of autonomous agents and vector search, and we will get there, we have to look directly at the scoreboard.
The headline numbers.
Yes, section 1. Because the numbers from this quarter didn't just beat expectations, they completely smashed them.
Smashed is the right word. I mean, it is genuinely rare to see a financial profile look quite like this at this specific level of scale.
Yeah.
Yeah. We are looking at a company that is operating at a massive run rate, yet behaving financially like a nimble early stage startup.
Let's hit the raw data so you, the listener, know exactly what we're dealing with. Total Q1 revenue came in at $688 million.
Which is massive.
Massive. That is up 25% year over year. But I want to pause on that 25% figure because context is just everything here.
Right. It's not just a standalone number.
Exactly. That is an actual acceleration from the 22% growth they reported in the first quarter of the prior 2 years.
And that's the kicker.
Right. I mean, I see startups growing at 100% all the time. So on the surface, 25% might not sound earth-shattering. Why does that specific acceleration matter so much here?
Well, because of the sheer physics of revenue at scale.
Physics?
Yeah, in the software industry, there is this inescapable gravitational pull. It's known as the law of large numbers.
Okay, break that down for us.
Sure. When you are a tiny startup, generating, say, $1 million a year, growing by 100% just means you have to go find another $1 million.
Right, which isn't easy, but it's manageable.
It's relatively easy in the grand scheme of things. But as your revenue base gets larger, maintaining that same percentage growth rate becomes exponentially harder.
Because you need more raw dollars.
Exactly. To actually speed up your growth rate, to accelerate from 22% to 25% when you are already pulling in nearly $700 million in a single quarter, that is incredibly difficult.
You're talking huge chunks of cash.
Right. It requires generating hundreds of millions of net new dollars just to bump the percentage up a few points.
So what you're saying is this isn't a startup finding its footing.
Not at all.
It effectively means the larger they get, the faster they are moving. It's like a massive freight train that is somehow picking up speed while traveling uphill.
That's a perfect analogy. That shouldn't happen under normal physical or financial laws.
Right, so it signals a tailwind.
A massive structural tailwind pushing the entire business forward.
But, we have to look at the quality of that revenue too.
Definitely. Quality matters just as much as velocity.
Because a lot of companies can buy top-line growth, right?
Yeah.
If they are willing to just burn endless amounts of cash on sales and marketing.
Oh, we see that all the time, buying revenue at a loss.
Right. But MongoDB isn't doing that.
Yeah, they're highly profitable.
Which brings us to the profitability metrics. And I want to spend a minute here because earnings calls are notorious for throwing around acronyms that just confuse the average retail investor.
Well, it's an alphabet soup.
It really is.
Yeah.
So MongoDB reported a non-GAAP operating margin of 18%, which actually beat the high end of their own guidance, by the way.
Very strong.
And their non-GAAP net income was $1.32 per share. But here's the thing. They also highlighted hitting their second quarter in a row of GAAP profitability.
GAAP.
Right. GAAP. Let's translate this. I hear GAAP and non-GAAP thrown around on every single earnings call, and frankly, it often sounds like management teams are just picking whichever number makes them look better.
Huh. They definitely do that sometimes.
Right. What is actually going on under the hood here, and why should the listener care?
Well, it is one of the most common points of confusion, but it's absolutely vital for understanding a company's real health.
Okay.
So, GAAP stands for Generally Accepted Accounting Principles. It is the standardized, rigid set of rules mandated by the SEC.
The strict rules.
Yes. Every publicly traded company must follow them when reporting their financials. And GAAP includes absolutely every expense.
No hiding anything.
Right. Non-GAAP, on the other hand, is an adjusted figure provided by management. They essentially strip out certain costs that they argue don't reflect the daily operational running of the business.
So it's the if you ignore this massive bill, we actually made money metric.
Exactly.
I can see why investors get skeptical of that. What exactly are they stripping out?
The biggest culprit, especially in the tech sector, is stock-based compensation.
Ah, okay.
Tech companies pay their employees heavily in stock options, right? To attract top talent without draining their actual cash reserves.
Makes sense.
But under GAAP rules, that stock compensation has to be recorded as a massive expense on the income statement.
So it looks like a huge loss on paper.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It often drags a highly successful company into negative territory on their official filings.
Ah, I see. Because giving an engineer stock doesn't actually cost the company cash out of its bank account today.
Nope.
But it does dilute the existing shareholders, so the accountants force them to record it as a financial hit.
Precisely. So when a tech company points to their non-GAAP profitability, they're essentially saying, look, our actual core business operations selling software and collecting cash are highly profitable if you just don't count the stock we gave our employees.
Right, okay.
Wall Street generally accepts non-GAAP as a useful way to measure raw efficiency. But here is the kicker for MongoDB this quarter.
Hit me.
They didn't just hit non-GAAP profitability, they achieved GAAP profitability.
Meaning they made a true, universally recognized profit even after accounting for every single stock option, one-time charge, and weird accounting rule in the book.
Yes. And for a high-growth cloud software company to cross into consistent GAAP profitability, that is a massive milestone.
It really is.
It proves the business model has immense leverage. And we see that reflected directly in their cash flow. They generated $198 million in free cash flow this quarter.
Wow. Compared to what last year?
Compared to $106 million in the same quarter last year?
They almost doubled their free cash flow.
Yes.
That means as their top line revenue grows, a disproportionately larger chunk of that money is falling straight to the bottom line. Straight into their bank account.
It's highly efficient growth.
So, okay, the freight train is accelerating and it's highly profitable, but here's where it gets really interesting. How exactly does a product line that big accelerate?
It's Atlas. It's all about Atlas.
Right. The answer lies in their flagship product, MongoDB Atlas.
Atlas is undeniably the star of the show here.
The numbers on Atlas are just staggering. It grew 29.4% year over year. They added a record $117 million in just this quarter alone.
Incredible.
And Atlas is now operating at a massive $2 billion run rate. It makes up 75% of MongoDB's total revenue.
Which is up from 72% a year ago.
Right. I want to unpack that term run rate for a second. When they say a $2 billion run rate, they mean if you take this exact quarter's revenue and just multiply it by 4 for the full year, it equals $2 billion.
Yeah, and that is a crucial metric for a product like Atlas specifically.
Why is that?
Because of how it is sold. Atlas is a fully managed cloud database, right? And it operates on a consumption-based pricing model.
Meaning you pay for what you use.
Exactly. This isn't the old days of enterprise software, where a company buys a massive multi-million-dollar license up front, installs it on their own servers, and then pays a flat maintenance fee every year.
Right, the old shelfware model, where a company buys a ton of software and half of it just sits unused gathering digital dust.
Yeah, and the vendor gets paid either way. Atlas doesn't work like that. It operates more like a utility bill, like your water or electricity.
Yeah.
Customers pay precisely for the computing power, the storage, and the data, reads, and writes they actually consume. Nothing more.
So when you see a $2 billion run rate product growing at nearly 30%.
It is a direct reflection of underlying usage. It means the sheer volume of data being processed by their customers is just exploding.
The adoption is active and expanding every single day.
Exactly. They're consuming more electricity, so to speak.
And it's not just the cloud side that is working, right? Their legacy business, Enterprise Advanced, or EA.
Right, EA.
Which is their commercial server for companies that still want to run databases on their own physical on-premise server.
Or in highly restricted hybrid environment.
Right. That business also grew 13% year over year, so both engines are actually firing.
Both are very healthy.
But let's look at who is actually paying these utility bills. They ended the quarter with 67,700 total customers. They added 2,500 new ones just in Q1.
That's a huge top of funnel.
It is, but the metric that really caught my eye was their large enterprise cohort.
Ah, the 100K club.
Yes. Customers with over $100,000 in annual recurring revenue, or ARR. They now have 2,895 customers spending over $100,000 every single year.
And that group is growing fast.
It grew 16% year over year. And to tie that all together, the company reported a net ARR expansion rate of 121%, up from 119% a year ago.
That is the magic number right there.
Okay, let's break this down for anyone listening who doesn't live and breathe SaaS metrics. What exactly does 121% net expansion rate tell you about a company's health?
I would argue it is the single most important health metric for any software as a service business.
Big statement. Why?
Well, imagine a bucket with holes in it.
Okay.
Every software company loses some customers, right? That's churn, the water leaking out of the bucket.
Sure.
A net ARR expansion rate looks at a specific cohort of customers from exactly 1 year ago. It asks, if we didn't add a single new customer over the last 12 months, how much is that original group spending today compared to last year?
Oh, wow. So it accounts for all the upgrades, all the downgrades, and all the customers who canceled completely.
Correct. It blends all of that together. So a rate of 121% means that even after you subtract the revenue lost from customers who downgraded or left entirely, the remaining customers upgraded and consumed so much more Atlas that the total revenue from that specific group actually grew by 21%.
That's incredible.
It is. It proves that the product is incredibly sticky. Once an enterprise adopts MongoDB for a project, they don't just maintain it. The developers love it, they build more applications on it, and they expand their usage significantly.
It's the classic land and expand business model executed flawlessly.
Flawlessly.
And the data supports that expansion, right? 35% of those large 100K plus customers are now using 2 or more distinct features of the Atlas platform.
Which is up from 37% a year ago?
Exactly. So to summarize the first part of our deep dive, the financial foundation is incredibly deep. The revenue growth is actively accelerating against the laws of financial physics, and the business is spitting out real, JAP profitable cash flow.
It's a pristine financial picture.
But this brings us to the core mystery of the earnings call. And this is section 2, the story behind the numbers.
The fun part.
Right. Why is this happening? What is the actual technological shift going on right now that is forcing so much usage onto this specific platform?
And this is where we transition from the raw financial numbers to the underlying narrative. The narrative detail on this call is fundamentally about the evolution of how modern applications are built.
The CEO, CJ Desai, talked about meeting with 200 customers personally just in the first quarter.
He's busy.
Very. And he broke the company's opportunity into 2 massive reinforcing dimensions: core enterprise modernization and the generative AI boom.
Let's tackle modernization first.
Yeah, because that is the bedrock that pays the bills today. He brought up Zoom as a prime example.
Zoom is a fascinating case study here. We all know Zoom for our daily video meetings. But as a business, They are aggressively expanding into a full unified communication stack.
Right, it's not just video anymore.
Exactly. They're rolling out Zoom Phone, Zoom Contact Center, Zoom Virtual Agent, and they are choosing to standardize all of these massive data-heavy applications on MongoDB Enterprise Advanced.
Okay, but I want to push back on that for a second.
Sure.
If Zoom is this massive cloud-native tech giant, why don't they just use Amazon Web Services native database, like DynamoDB, or Google Cloud's native offerings? Why pay a third party like MongoDB at all?
It's a great question and comes down to a strategy called the polycloud data estate.
Polycloud?
Yeah, multiple clouds. This is becoming the standard for massive global enterprises. Think about it. If you rely entirely on Amazon's native database, you are locked into Amazon's infrastructure.
Right.
If AWS goes down in a specific region, your entire application goes down.
And for a company like Zoom, where a dropped call or a frozen contact center means immediate revenue loss.
And massive brand damage. They cannot afford to be tied to a single point of failure.
Ah, so it's about leverage and redundancy.
Exactly. MongoDB is cloud agnostic. It runs identically on Amazon, Google, and Microsoft Azure. So Zoom can deploy their database across multiple different cloud environments globally.
Oh, that makes sense.
This ensures ultra-low latency for users in different continents and high availability if one specific cloud provider experiences an outage.
Plus, I imagine it simplifies things for their engineers.
Yes. By standardizing on MongoDB, they simplify their internal operations. Their developers only have to learn one single database system, while the company maintains the freedom to move their workloads wherever it makes the most economic sense.
It effectively elevates MongoDB from being just a tactical tool for a single app to being a strategic global platform commitment.
Exactly.
But, while that core enterprise modernization is a massive, highly profitable business, the absolute rocket fuel being injected into their engine right now is artificial intelligence.
It's the AI boom.
The CEO explicitly spent a huge portion of the call discussing AI natives, frontier labs, and enterprise AI. Let's start with the AI natives. These are the startups where AI isn't just a bolted-on feature, right? It is the entire core of their business.
Right.
The transcript had an incredibly revealing anecdote about a company called 11 Labs. They are a massive player in the AI audio space.
Huge player.
And they were scaling rapidly to a $500 million run rate. But they literally choked on their previous database infrastructure.
Choked is the perfect word for it. And it's a story we are seeing repeated across the entire AI ecosystem right now.
What happened?
Well, 11 Labs was trying to cobble together a solution. They were using a first-party database provided by their cloud vendor just to handle their operational data.
It's like basic user logins and billing?
Yeah, exactly. App functionality.
Yeah.
But then they were using a completely separate piece of software to handle their search functionality.
Okay, that sounds messy.
It is. As their product went viral and they experienced explosive growth, those two disconnected systems couldn't talk to each other fast enough to handle the sheer velocity of the data.
They were facing synchronization issues and actual outages because the architecture just couldn't keep up with the AI.
Right. So they were forced into a massive migration. They moved everything over to MongoDB because Atlas offered them operational data storage, regular text search, and advanced AI vector search, all natively integrated into one single platform.
No more cobbling things together.
No more duct tape.
The engineer who made the decision for 11 Labs essentially said on the record, "We should have done this a lot sooner, and now we finally have peace of mind."
Which is huge.
And it's not just them. The call highlighted Andor Labs, which is an AI-native security platform protecting over 7 million applications.
Yep.
They selected Atlas as their default database to support 225% year-over-year revenue growth. They are using it to power a brand new security intelligence layer specifically designed for AI coding agents. But let's pause here because this is where the entire deep dive really hinges. Why are these bleeding-edge AI companies universally hitting a wall with traditional databases?
It's the big question.
Why does the technology that ran the internet for the last 20 years suddenly break when you introduce generative AI?
This is perhaps the most important concept for an investor to understand regarding MongoDB's long-term moat. It comes down to something the CEO referred to as the schema tax.
The schema tax, okay.
To understand why traditional databases are breaking, we have to look at how data has been stored for the last 40 years.
Right. Before we get to AI, I want to understand this schema tax. Because my understanding of a database, and I assume most people's understanding, is that it is essentially just a giant, highly organized Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah, that's how most people picture it.
You have columns, you have rows, you have tables. It's incredibly structured. Are you saying that entire paradigm is obsolete?
For certain modern applications, yes. It is entirely breaking down. What you're describing is a relational database. It was invented in the 1970s by Edgar Codd at IBM, and it relies on something called SQL, or Structured Query Language. It is brilliant for predictable data.
Predictable? Like what?
Like if you are a bank building a system to track checking accounts.
Yeah.
You know exactly what the data looks like. Account name, account number, current balance, date opened.
Right.
You define the columns and you lock them in. That lock is called the schema.
So it's rigid. It's like you build a physical filing cabinet with specific sized folders before you ever put a piece of paper inside.
Exactly. Before a software developer can write a single line of application code, a database administrator has to meticulously design this schema. Every table must be perfectly related to every other table.
Okay.
But here's the problem. What happens if the business needs change? What if a year later the marketing team says, hey, we need to start tracking our customers' social media handles and their secondary shipping addresses?
In my mind, you just add a new column to the spreadsheet. I mean, is it really that hard?
Oh, in a massive production-grade relational database, adding a new column is an absolute nightmare.
Really?
It requires a database migration. You have to temporarily halt or carefully route around the system, rewrite the underlying schema. Ensure that adding the new column doesn't break the complex relationships with the 20 other tables it connects to.
Oh, wow.
And then you have to update the application code to recognize the new structure. It is a slow, painful, risky process. That friction, that slowdown in development speed is the schema tax.
Okay, I see. Which is annoying for traditional software. But why is it catastrophic for artificial intelligence?
Because in the AI era, software isn't built predictably anymore.
Right.
We're moving toward what's called prompt-driven development.
Yeah.
Developers, or increasingly autonomous AI agents themselves, are iterating in real time using natural language.
Okay.
They are testing, changing, and spawning new features on the fly. With every prompt, the very shape and structure of the data the application needs to store might change.
That makes sense.
An AI analyzing an image 1 second might need to store color hex codes. And the next second, it might be analyzing a legal contract and need to store paragraph summaries.
And you can't ask an AI to stop and wait 3 weeks for a database administrator to run a schema migration.
Exactly. A rigid, relational row and column database physically cannot adapt fast enough to handle the fluid, unpredictable data generated by large language models.
And this is where MongoDB's underlying architecture feels like a 15-year-old cheat code.
It really does.
Because MongoDB is not a relational database. It is a document database. It doesn't use rigid rows and columns. So how does it actually store the data if it isn't in a spreadsheet format?
It stores data in flexible documents, specifically a format known as JSON.
JSON.
Right, which stands for JavaScript Object Notation. Imagine instead of a rigid spreadsheet row, each piece of data is just a flexible text file, like a Word document. One document can have 3 fields, name, age, and email. The very next document in the exact same database can have 50 fields, nested arrays, lists of social media handles, complex geospatial coordinates.
And the database doesn't break.
The database doesn't care. It accepts the data exactly as the application generates it. There is no predefined schema, which means there is no schema tax.
The developers can just code, and the database catches whatever they throw at it.
Yes.
And this is the magic connection to AI that CJ Desai pointed out on the call. Large language models like OpenAI's GPT-4 or Google's Gemini, they are the new lingua franca of computing.
And they inherently output their data in JSON. That is their native language.
Which means MongoDB was accidentally perfectly designed for the AI revolution, roughly 15 years before the AI boom actually happened.
Amazing timing. The AI speaks in unstructured JSON documents. And MongoDB natively stores unstructured JSON documents. It is a completely frictionless transfer of data. They have been compounding this architectural advantage for a decade and a half, while legacy database companies are now desperately trying to bolt JSON capabilities onto their rigid 40-year-old relational framework.
It's like trying to turn a freight train into a submarine. It's just not built for it.
Yeah, exactly.
But the transcript went much deeper than just storing JSON. They spent a massive amount of time talking about agentic workloads and MongoDB establishing itself as the long-term memory for AI.
This is the really exciting stuff.
Let's explore this because this crosses the frontier from interesting tech straight into science fiction becoming reality. We are moving past AI as just a helpful chatbot that answers a question and then immediately forgets you exist.
Right, the chatbot era is already becoming legacy tech.
Yeah.
We are entering the era of AI agents.
Agents.
Yes. An agent is a piece of software equipped with a large language model that can autonomously make decisions. You give it a high-level goal like, analyze my competitor's pricing and adjust our inventory accordingly.
And it just does it.
It will spawn subtasks, browse the web, read internal documents, write data, and execute the strategy without any human intervention.
So I have been trying to wrap my head around this concept, and I want to run an analogy by you.
Let's hear it.
Is it fair to think of this transition like the anatomy of the human brain, where the large language model itself, the core intelligence from OpenAI or Anthropic, is the frontal lobe?
Okay, I'm following.
It's doing the active reasoning, the processing in the moment. But the LLM itself doesn't actually store anything permanently. So MongoDB is stepping in to act as the hippocampus.
Yes.
It's providing the permanent long-term memory. So the AI agent actually remembers what it did yesterday, knows the historical context of the business, and doesn't wake up with amnesia every single morning.
I think that is a deeply accurate way to conceptualize it. An LLM on its own, out of the box, is essentially a genius-level savant with severe short-term amnesia. Every time you start a new session, it forgets everything that happened before. For an autonomous AI agent to be actually useful in a complex business setting, it needs a continuous, reliable memory stream.
But wait, let me push back here. Why does it need a specialized memory layer like MongoDB? Couldn't literally any database store a log of what the AI did yesterday?
It could, theoretically, but it comes down to the velocity and complexity of the retrieval.
The speed.
The agent needs memory that is highly transactional and capable of retrieving the exact right semantic context in milliseconds. Think about it. If an AI agent is trying to resolve a complex customer dispute, it needs to instantly query the customer's entire purchase history, their previous chat logs, the company's current return policy, and live inventory levels simultaneously.
All at once.
Yes. If that memory retrieval takes 5 seconds, the user experience is broken. If it retrieves the wrong context because the data wasn't synchronized, the AI makes a catastrophic error.
And that brings us to the massive enterprise examples highlighted on the call, which prove this isn't just theoretical. We aren't just talking about plucky startups here.
No, we are talking about massive global corporations.
We are talking about global mega caps putting agentic workloads into production today. Let's look at Zomato. They're the world's second largest food delivery company.
Right.
They boast over 25 million monthly active users, and they built an AI-native customer support platform called Nugget directly on Addis.
The scale of what they are doing with Nugget is staggering. This single AI platform orchestrates 15 million complex customer conversations every single month.
15 million.
Relying entirely on MongoDB as its memory and operational layer. And the financial impact is undeniable. Zomato reported that Nugget reduced their overall support costs by 55%.
55%? That's absurd.
While simultaneously improving human agent productivity by 40%.
That is massive hard dollar ROI. And the detail that stuck out to me in the transcript is that Zomato didn't just default to MongoDB blindly.
They shopped around.
They actively evaluated Amazon's native document databases, specifically DynamoDB and DocumentDB. But they explicitly chose Atlas for its aggregation pipeline, its write consistency, and its flexible schema.
Which tells investors that at truly massive scale handling, 15 million real-time, context-heavy conversations where hungry, angry customers are demanding refunds,
right,
the deep specialized nuances of how a database handles data aggregation become the deciding factor.
Right.
The hyperscalers like Amazon offer good enough generalized databases, but MongoDB offers the premium specialized engine required for true AI performance.
And then there's Adobe. Adobe is an absolute giant.
A behemoth.
They built a Journey agent, which is a multimodal AI agent designed to unify their entire marketing suite. This agent orchestrates end-to-end customer journeys for their global direct-to-consumer user base. And Adobe is literally using MongoDB Atlas as the agent's core long-term memory and reasoning layer.
What's fascinating about the Adobe example is the strict performance requirement they demanded. Adobe is leveraging Atlas Search and Atlas Vector Search simultaneously.
To power what they call sub-100 millisecond hybrid search.
Exactly.
Okay, let's pause right there. Sub 100 millisecond hybrid search. For anyone listening, if you were trying to figure out why a massive tech company would rip out their existing infrastructure to install MongoDB, this phrase is the key to the castle.
It really is.
We need to break down what vector search actually is, because it sounds like a buzzword, but is the fundamental mechanism of AI memory. What is vector search, and how does it differ from the way we've searched for things on the internet for the last 20 years?
Okay, so to understand vector search, you first have to understand traditional keyword-based search.
Okay.
If you go to an e-commerce website and type in red shoes, a traditional database executes a literal string matching function. It scans every product description looking for the exact letters RED next to SHOES.
Right. And if the website listed them as crimson sneakers, the search engine comes back blank, even though it's exactly what I wanted.
Precisely, because traditional databases don't understand meaning. They only understand characters. Vector search completely changes the paradigm.
How so?
It uses an AI model to translate words, sentences, images, or even audio files into long strings of numbers called vectors. Think of these vectors as coordinates on a massive, multidimensional map of human language and meaning.
So it plots the concepts in physical space?
Yes. The AI model knows that the coordinate for crimson is located right next to the coordinate for red, and sneaker is plotted right next to shoe.
Oh, wow.
So when an AI agent needs to retrieve a memory or find a product, it doesn't look for matching letters. It mathematically searches for the closest numerical coordinates in that multidimensional space. It searches by semantic meaning, not by spelling.
That is incredible. So when Adobe's Journey Agent needs to retrieve context to answer a complex customer marketing query, it isn't just doing a simple Control-F word search through a database.
No.
It is using vector search to pull the most semantically relevant memories, concepts, and historical interactions instantly.
Exactly. And the crucial point CJ Desai made on the call is about the absolute necessity of accuracy in this process.
Because accuracy is everything.
Right. If you are building an internal tool to summarize your company's weekly Zoom meetings, an occasional AI hallucination or a slightly inaccurate search result is annoying, but it's ultimately tolerable.
But if you are deploying a customer-facing application, say an AI agent providing clinical decision support in healthcare, or an agent executing fraud detection in the financial sector,
Accuracy is non-negotiable. And hallucination there gets you sued or fired.
which is exactly why MongoDB's approach of integrating vector search directly into the core operational database is so monumental.
Right, because the old way of doing this was incredibly fragmented. You would store your actual live user data in a primary database. Then you would have to sync that data over to a completely separate standalone vector database to perform the AI search.
And I assume moving massive amounts of data back and forth between two different systems creates lag.
It creates massive latency, yes. But more importantly, it creates synchronization errors. The AI is searching a vector database that might be 5 minutes out of date from the operational database.
And that gap is where hallucinations happen.
Exactly. By unifying them, MongoDB guarantees that the vector search is always querying the exact millisecond accurate state of the live data.
And to make this integration even more frictionless for developers, MongoDB used this quarter to launch something called Voyage AI embeddings in public preview.
Which is a huge time saver.
It takes what used to be weeks of painful infrastructure work, where a developer had to figure out how to manually translate their company's data into these complex vector formats using third-party tools, and completely automates it natively within Atlas.
It allows a developer to deliver highly accurate semantic search in minutes rather than months.
It is entirely about collapsing the technology stack, simplifying the architecture so developers can focus on building the AI agent, not managing the database pipes.
Speaking of collapsing the stack, the earnings call also highlighted their deep strategic integration with LangChain.
Oh, yes. Now, for the uninitiated, LangChain is currently the world's most widely adopted open source framework for building AI agents. It has over 1 billion downloads. Developers everywhere use it to string together different AI models and tools.
That's foundational.
So MongoDB announced they are now the official MongoDB checkpointer for LangGraph deployments. What does that actually mean for the average developer building an agent?
It is a massive operational win. Before this integration, a developer building a complex agent on LangChain might require a dedicated separate relational database like a Postgres instance, strictly to hold the agent's state and short-term memory as it moved through a workflow.
Right.
With this new integration, MongoDB collapses that requirement. The agent's state, its short-term memory, and the company's core operational data are all unified in one single Atlas cluster. It removes a tremendous amount of architectural friction.
And to ensure that the core database engine can actually handle the massive stress of these autonomous agents constantly reading and writing data, MongoDB released version 8.3 this month.
A major update.
And they made a big point of stating that developers don't have to change a single line of their application code to get the benefits. This new update delivers up to 45% more data reads, 35% more writes, and 15% more ACID transactions compared to the previous version.
That kind of performance leap in a highly mature, decade-old software product is remarkable. It proves that their engineering team is deeply focused on ensuring the underlying platform doesn't become a bottleneck as these agentic workloads scale up and start making thousands of independent, real-time decisions.
Now, you mentioned AC transactions, and I want to put you on the spot because that is another one of those deep technical terms that Wall Street analysts nod at, but most retail investors don't fully grasp.
I can break that down.
What is an ACID transaction, and why does an AI agent need 15% more of them?
ACID is an acronym that defines the gold standard for database reliability. It stands for atomicity, consistency, isolation, and durability.
Okay.
It essentially guarantees that a complex database transaction is processed reliably no matter what happens.
Can you give me a real-world example?
Absolutely. Think about a bank transfer. You are transferring $100 from your savings account to your checking account. That requires two actions: subtracting $100 from savings and adding $100 to checking.
Right.
Atomicity means it is an all-or-nothing proposition. If the power goes out after the $100 is subtracted, but before it is added to checking, the database automatically rolls the entire transaction back so your money doesn't just disappear into the ether.
Oh, that's crucial.
And durability means once the transaction is complete, it is permanently saved, even if the servers instantly crash.
Okay, so it's the bedrock of financial and enterprise trust. But why does an AI agent care about that?
Because if we are moving toward autonomous agents executing real-world tasks, like an AI agent autonomously negotiating a vendor contract and executing a payment, that agent needs absolute ironclad guarantees that the database recorded the transaction flawlessly.
It can't just be mostly right.
Exactly. Right. Increasing ACID transaction throughput by 15% means MongoDB can handle significantly more of these mission-critical autonomous actions concurrently without slowing down.
And you can clearly see management organizing the entire corporate structure around this dual mandate of enterprise reliability and AI speed.
They've made some big shifts.
They recently made a major executive move, splitting their chief product officer role into two distinct positions. Ben Cefalo, a longtime trusted MongoDB leader, is now the CPO for core products, overseeing the reliability of Atlas and Enterprise Advanced.
Right.
But they explicitly brought in Pablo Stern-Plaza as the new CPO strictly for AI and emerging products.
And it is highly intentional that Pablo is based out of San Francisco. He is geographically and strategically positioned right in the heart of the AI ecosystem. His primary task is managing relationships with the top AI natives, the frontier model builders, and the massive venture capital firms funding them.
It shows MongoDB recognizes that the AI market moves at a different speed and requires dedicated, specialized product leadership.
They also brought in heavy hitters on the go-to-market and sales side. Erica Vellini joined as Chief Customer Officer. She previously helped scale ServiceNow from $5 billion to over $10 billion in revenue.
That's a serious resume.
And they brought on Ryan McBain as Chief Revenue Officer, coming over from Confluent, where he ran a very similar cloud-native, consumption-oriented sales playbook.
It's an executive team that is clearly built for the next stage of scale. They aren't staffing up to run a $1 billion company. They are gearing up for the next major phase of multi-billion-dollar enterprise growth.
Without a doubt.
Okay, so we've looked at the accelerating top-line numbers, and we've explored the fascinating underlying technology that is making them the de facto memory layer for the AI era. Now let's pivot to Section 3, management guidance.
Looking ahead.
Because it is one thing to have a great Q1, but what are they actually promising Wall Street for the rest of the year? Does management expect this massive AI tailwind to continue?
This portion of the call is where we see management attempting to balance extreme confidence in their cloud product with prudent macroeconomic conservatism regarding their legacy software.
Let's start with the Q2 guidance. They are projecting total revenue between $729 million and $734 million. That represents 23 to 24% year-over-year growth.
Very solid.
For the Atlas Cloud product specifically, they expect roughly 26% growth. And for the full fiscal year 2027, they actually raised their overall revenue expectations to a range of $2.92 billion to $2.96 billion.
But the metric that really signaled their financial discipline is their performance against the Rule of 40.
I love this concept, but it is rarely explained well. Give us the talk ticker's ELI5. Explain it like I'm 5 for the Rule of 40. Why is it the holy grail for a SaaS business?
The Rule of 40 is a benchmark that originated in the venture capital world to measure the holistic health and efficiency of a software-as-a-service company. It states that a software company's revenue growth rate plus its profit margin should equal or exceed 40%.
So it forces a balance between growth and profitability.
Exactly. It acknowledges that there is a trade-off. If a startup is growing revenue at an explosive 60% year over year, Wall Street will forgive them if they are burning cash and have a negative 20% margin, because 60 minus 20 still equals 40.
Right.
Conversely, a mature, slower-growing company might only have 10% revenue growth. But if they're generating a massive 30% profit margin, they also hit the rule.
So where does MongoDB fall on this spectrum?
Based on their raised guidance, MongoDB is projecting roughly 20% full-year revenue growth combined with a 20% operating margin at the high end of their outlook.
20 plus 20 hits the magic 40.
They are perfectly threading the needle.
They are capturing massive market share in the AI database space, but they aren't burning cash recklessly to do it. Achieving the Rule of 40 as a profitable, balanced business is incredibly rare in the current high-interest rate environment where capital isn't free anymore.
It is the hallmark of a deeply mature management team. But we do have to address the weak spot in the guidance.
Yeah, I wanted to bring this up.
They did issue one significant caveat that investors need to understand, and it revolves around their Enterprise Advanced, or EA, revenue in the second half of the year.
Right. This is where I want to push back, because this sounded like a red flag on the call. CFO Mike Berry noted that they have clear line of sight into a very strong Q2 for the EA segment, expecting about 20% growth.
Yes.
But then he explicitly forecasted EA revenue to be approximately flat in the back half of the year. Why would a core product line suddenly stall out and go flat? Is the core enterprise market rejecting the software?
It isn't a rejection of the software at all. It is a reflection of how enterprise software is actually sold and recognized. We have to differentiate the two business models.
Right.
Atlas is a cloud consumption model. It is highly predictable, millions of small data reads and writes, smooth out over tens of thousands of customers every single day.
It's the utility bill.
Right. But EA is the old school model. It is driven by large, multi-year, on-premise licensing deals negotiated by massive corporations. These deals are inherently lumpy. They don't happen smoothly. They depend heavily on the exact timing of contract renewals, massive IT budget approvals, and complex implementation schedules.
Let me try an analogy here. It's like the difference between your regular salary and your end-of-year bonus.
I like that.
Atlas is your reliable biweekly paycheck that just keeps getting slightly bigger as you work more overtime. EA is the massive, unpredictable end-of-year bonus. You know it's probably coming, you've hit your targets, but management is choosing to be smart and not budget for a new car until the bonus check has actually cleared in the bank account.
That is exactly how Mike Berry framed it. He explicitly stated that they only include deals in their EA forecast, that they have absolute ironclad confidence in closing. They refuse to guide based on pipeline hopes. Furthermore, the second half of this upcoming year faces incredibly tough statistical comparisons to the second half of fiscal 26, which was abnormally strong for EA renewals.
So they are sandbagging a bit. They are setting a conservative bar that they know they can clear, rather than setting aggressive targets that rely on unpredictable macro IT budgets.
It is a responsible, conservative forecasting approach that protects the stock from negative surprises later in the year.
And while they are being highly conservative on their legacy revenue forecasting, they are being incredibly aggressive on their strategic positioning. The call announced a very under-the-radar acquisition of a company called Clarity Business Solutions.
This was a smart move.
From a pure financial perspective, Clarity is tiny. They generate about $10 million in annual services revenue and operate at roughly break-even profitability. So MongoDB, a company doing billions in revenue, isn't buying them for a financial bump. Why bother acquiring a break-even $10 million services company?
It is a brilliant, highly tactical move entirely about market access. Clarity has actually been a trusted consulting partner of MongoDB since 2021.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and their entire business is providing specialized support and professional services for highly classified workloads within the United States federal government. They possess deep domain expertise and, crucially, high-level security clearances.
And CJ Desai made a major point about the public sector opportunity. Federal agencies, both in the U.S. and across Europe, are sitting on absolute mountains of unstructured data. Think about the government. It runs on documents, forms, records, PDFs.
Mountains of it.
All of that is unstructured JSON-style data that needs to be stored, retrieved, and analyzed efficiently and securely. Many of these government agencies have historically just used MongoDB's free open-source community version because they couldn't get past the massive security and compliance hurdles required to buy the commercial cloud version.
But that dam is about to break. MongoDB announced they are slated to receive their FedRAMP High certification later this year.
Let's do another ELI 5 here. What is FedRAMP High and why is it so hard to get?
FedRAMP stands for the Federal Risk and Authorization Management Program. It is the U.S. government's standardized approach to security assessment for cloud products. It is notoriously rigorous, expensive, and time-consuming to pass.
Okay.
FedRAMP High is the absolute gold standard. It is required to handle the government's most sensitive, unclassified data where a breach would cause severe or catastrophic adverse effects.
So by marrying the impending FedRAMP High technical certification with the cleared personnel and specific consulting expertise from Clarity Business Solutions, MongoDB is unlocking a massive, previously inaccessible market.
Precisely. They aren't just selling software to the government. They are acquiring the specific Sherpas needed to guide that software through the labyrinth of federal procurement. They are positioning themselves to aggressively attack the U.S. federal vertical across civilian, intelligence, and defense agencies, just as those agencies are mandated to modernize their infrastructure for AI.
So they have the structural technology advantage, they have the pristine margins, they have the specialized leadership team, and now they are unlocking the massive public sector market.
They're firing on all cylinders.
This brings us perfectly to our final segment, Section 4. The bottom line. We have crunched the headline numbers, we've told the story of the scheme attacks and AI memory, and we've looked at the crystal ball of their financial guidance. It is time for the talk ticker's verdict. What is the actionable intelligence for the retail investor listening to this right now? Bullish or bearish?
The verdict here is extremely bullish.
Extremely bullish.
If you are a current holder of MongoDB stock, the fundamental data in this earnings deep dive suggests this is a remarkably strong hold. The fact that their core consumption product, Atlas, is actively accelerating its growth rate at a $2 billion run rate is a rare testament to the structural superiority of their underlying technology. The market is validating their platform every single day through increased consumption.
And what if you are a prospective buyer, someone sitting on the sidelines looking for the best way to get exposure to the AI revolution?
For prospective buyers, this call provides a vital alternative perspective to the mainstream AI narrative. Right now, so much of the market's attention and capital is crowded into the semiconductor trade companies like NVIDIA or AMD that are physically making the hardware chips.
The picks and shovels.
Exactly. But hardware is cyclical. MongoDB represents the fundamental infrastructure software layer of AI. Every single enterprise on Earth that is building an autonomous AI agent needs a highly transactional, vector-enabled database that won't choke under real-time multi-threaded pressure. And MongoDB is proving, quarter after consecutive quarter, that they are becoming the default choice for the AI era.
But let me play devil's advocate for a second because no stock is without risk.
Fair enough.
Let's say the AI hype bubble pops tomorrow. Let's say the massive venture capital funding dries up, and half of these highly touted AI startups, the ones paying MongoDB massive utility bills for database access, go bankrupt in the next 24 months. What happens to MongoDB's accelerating growth then?
That is a very real macroeconomic risk. But it is exactly why MongoDB is such a uniquely well-hedged bet in the software sector.
Hedged how?
Yes, the hypergrowth from AI natives like 11 Labs is exciting. But remember the first half of the CEO's mandate, core enterprise modernization. Even if the frontier AI startup hype cools significantly, you still have massive profitable companies like Zoom standardizing their global communications architecture on MongoDB simply to reduce their multi-cloud costs.
Right, the traditional business doesn't just go away.
You still have major global banks and legacy healthcare providers desperately modernizing their rigid 40-year-old relational databases just to survive in the digital age.
The safety net is incredibly strong because unstructured JSON data is simply a better, more flexible way to build modern software, regardless of whether you're building a futuristic AI agent or just a better mobile banking app.
Precisely. And as we saw with the Zomato example, the enterprise AI use cases aren't just vanity science experiments funded by cheap VC money. They are driving massive hard dollar ROI. Zomato slashed their real-world customer support costs by 55% using an AI agent built on Atlas.
In a tough macroeconomic environment where capital is expensive, companies will eagerly pay for software that drastically reduces their structural operational costs.
The value proposition is proven in production, not just in a pitch deck.
Which leaves us with one final provocative thought to mull over for your portfolio. Throughout this entire deep dive, we've talked about MongoDB establishing itself as the memory layer for individual company agents.
Right.
Adobe has their Journey agent. Zomato has their Nugget support agent. But let's look 3, maybe 5 years down the road.
This is where the implications for MongoDB's total addressable market get truly staggering. Right now, these autonomous agents are largely siloed within their own corporate walls. Adobe's agent talks to Adobe's database. But what happens in the very near future when these autonomous agents need to start communicating with each other?
Yes. What happens when a global marketing agent from Adobe needs to autonomously negotiate a complex multivariable partnership agreement or share live data streams directly with Zomato's logistics agent? If both of those AI agents are already natively built on MongoDB's architecture, and they both inherently speak the exact same unstructured language of JSON,
then MongoDB is no longer just a database company. It potentially evolves into the foundational standard protocol for how autonomous AI agents communicate, transact, and share context with each other globally.
Wow.
If your data is already formatted, vectorized, and optimized within the MongoDB ecosystem, the friction of agent-to-agent communication across different enterprises drops to zero. They become the universal connective tissue of the automated economy.
And that brings us right back to where we started on the sidewalk, looking at the skyscraper. When you look at the AI revolution today, it is so incredibly easy to be mesmerized by the shiny glass penthouses, the conversational chatbots, the image generators, the consumer applications.
That's all anyone talked about.
But the real structural power, the true compounding long-term value, lies deep underground. It lies in the invisible, mission-critical foundation that allows all of that towering technology to actually stand up without collapsing under its own weight.
A strong foundation.
MongoDB is quietly pouring the concrete for the agentic era, and as we saw in their Q1 results, that foundation is only getting stronger, deeper, and more profitable. You are now armed with the data, the story, and the edge you need to understand the true infrastructure of the AI revolution. Keep your eyes on the foundation. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.